Welcome to part 5 of the Spring Boot and Angular project series, where we are going to build an application called as YouTube clone. In the previous videos, we saw how to upload the video from our Angular application to the Spring Boot backend, where we are uploading the video to AWS S3, and we also made a small changes to our Angular application by adding the header component. So in this video, we are going to develop the functionality to save the video details from our Angular application, and we are going to save the details in the MongoDB. So without any further delay, let's start the video. Alright, so the first thing we are going to do is to create an API in our Spring Boot backend to update the video metadata. So for that, the first thing I'm going to do is to open the video controller class. Here you can see that we already have an endpoint which will upload the video. Now we are going to need an endpoint which will edit the video metadata. So for that, I'm going to name this method name as edit video metadata, right? And this is going to be a put request. So whenever we want to update an existing resource, according to REST terminology, we have to make a put request, put HTTP method request. So for that, we have a separate annotation in Spring Boot called as put mapping. So I'm going to make use of that annotation. And as a response, once the request is processed, we have to return a 200 response. That means HTTP status OK response. So I can also represent that response using the annotation called as response status. And I'm just going to type in the HTTP status here, HTTP status dot OK, right? So after adding these annotations, Spring Boot will expose this API with a put mapping, and it will return the response as HTTP status as OK. Coming to the method itself, as I said before, we are going to expose a put mapping, put API, and we are going to, of course, receive a request body from the client as part of the request, right? So for that, I'm going to create a new class called as video DTO. This class still does not exist. We are going to create this class now, and I'm going to add the annotation called as request body to tell Spring Boot that this is the request body we are receiving for this particular request. So let's go ahead and create this class video DTO, and I'm going to create this class under a package called as DTO. So now inside this class, I'm going to define the attributes or fields which will be part of the request body. So the first thing I'm going to do is to add the data annotation from the Lombok library, which will generate the boilerplate code like the getters and setters, equals and hash code method for the video DTO class. And we also need to have the no argument constructor and the argument constructor. So for that, I'm going to use the allogs constructor annotation from Lombok to create the argument constructor, and the no args constructor annotation to create the no args constructor. And after that, I'm going to add some attributes or fields inside this class, as these attributes or fields are similar to what we have inside the video class. I'm not going to type each of these fields one by one and make you watch that. So I'm just going to copy and paste the required field names. So the first one is the video ID, and the next one is the title of the video, followed by the description, and the tags for a given video, followed by the video URL, the video status, and the thumbnail URL. So these are the fields which we need for now to update the metadata of the video. So now let's go back to the video controller class, and in here we have defined the video DTO as the request body. Now let's add also the access modifier. So it's going to be public, and we are also going to return video DTO back from the method. So here I'm going to type in video service dot edit video. I'm going to create a method called as edit video, and I'm going to pass in the video DTO as the input argument for this method. So let's go ahead and create this method called edit video here. So what I'm going to do here is first find the video by video ID, right? And map the video DTO fields to video, and save the video to the database, right? So to find the video by video ID, we are going to use the video repository, the Spring Data repository, and we are going to use the find by ID method, which is a built-in method inside Spring Data MongoDB. So what I'm going to do is pass the video DTO dot get ID property to the find by ID method. So this will return an optional of the video object. If the optional is not present, we have to throw an exception. So for that, I'm just going to use the or else throw method, and in here I'm going to throw an illegal argument exception, right? So the message is going to be cannot find video by ID, and we are going to print the video ID by typing in video DTO dot get ID. Let's add this in a new line so that it's visible. So as you can see, we are retrieving the video from the database, and if there is no video with a given ID, we are throwing a illegal argument exception. So now let's store this inside a new local variable called as saved video, right? And now what we have to do is we have to map the fields which are coming in from the video DTO to the saved video, and then save the object, the saved video object, to the database. So now let's do that. So first I'm going to do say saved video dot set name, set title. I'm going to pass in the video DTO dot get title field name here. So in similar way, I will also map the other fields. Okay, so you can see that we have mapped all the required fields, all the fields which are coming in from the video DTO object, but we are not mapping the ID because it doesn't make sense, because the ID is already created when we are uploading the video. So the ID should be unique and it should not be changed, right? So we mapped the fields from video DTO to video object, and we are going to save the saved video to the database. So I'm going to type in video repository dot save and pass in the saved video object. So we are receiving the new video details from the as a request body. First we are retrieving the video with the given video ID, and then we are mapping the fields from the video DTO to video object, and then saving the object to the database. And lastly, we can return the video DTO back to the controller, right? And also change the return type of the edit video method to video DTO, and I'm also going to return this from the edit video metadata method inside the video controller. So now let's start the application and see whether we are able to map the required details or not. So the application is now started. You can see that it has started at port 8080, and now let's see which video we are going to edit. So if I open Compose and if you go to the YouTube clone database and inside the video collection, you see that in the previous lessons we have uploaded a video from our Angular application. So this is the document you are seeing. So you can see the ID is form of an object ID notation. So let's copy this ID because we need to provide this as a request to be able to identify the video and update the metadata. So just copy this video ID, and now I'm going to open Postman client so that I can make some REST calls. So I have added the URL as http localhost 8080/API/videos, which is the request mapping of the video controller class, and the HTTP method I have selected as put, right? And to create the request body, I have selected the option called raw and selected the option JSON here. And in here, now let's try to construct the request body. The first field is going to be ID, and we have already copied this value from the database, right? So the next field is going to be title. So I'm just going to name the video as sunset, and the description also I'm going to provide as sunset. And now I'm going to provide a set of strings. So it would be a JSON array. So the field is going to be tags, and I'm going to create a JSON array called sunset video and river, right? So these are the tags I'm going to add for the video. And the video status, I'm going to add the enum value. So let's see what is the enum value for the video status. So if I open the video DTO class and go to the video status, it's either public, private, or unlisted, all caps, right? So let's go back and add the video status as public in all caps. And yeah, so these are the things we need. We also have the thumbnail URL, but we will create an endpoint to upload the thumbnail also shortly. But let's try to test whether these details are saved to the database or not. So I'm just going to click on the field, on the button send, and here you can see that we have received a 200 OK response, and this is the response which is returned back from the server. So we have the ID field, the title as sunset, description as sunset, and we have provided a set of tags. The video status is public, the thumbnail is null, but the video URL is also null. So now let's go to the database and see whether these fields are saved or not. So I'm just going to click on the button find, and here you can see that the whatever data we have provided from the Postman client is saved to the database. Alright, so now let's implement the API to also upload the thumbnail. So we already have the API to upload the videos. So it's pretty straightforward to also create an API to upload the thumbnails. So all we have to do is we can just copy the existing upload video method and paste it inside the video controller class. And I'm going to change first the post mapping by extending the request mapping with the term thumbnail, right? And the response status is created as we are creating a resource, and I'm going to name this method as upload thumbnail, right? It also receives a request parameter, a file request parameter, which is a multi-part file, and we need another request parameter called as video ID. So let me add this request parameter called as video ID. This would be a string, so it would be string video ID, right? So if you want to upload a thumbnail, we want to upload a thumbnail for a given video, so that's why video ID is also added as a parameter to this request parameter to this method. So now let's create a new method called as upload thumbnail inside the video service, and we also need to add the video ID as a method argument for this method. So let's create this upload thumbnail method inside the video service class. What we have to do here is, again, we have to find the video by the video ID, and we have already implemented this inside the edit video method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a method called as video get video by ID, which takes in input parameter of called video ID of type string. So what I'm going to do here is cut this particular piece of code and paste it inside the video by ID method. So instead of video.getID, I'm just going to replace this with video ID, and also here I'm going to replace with video ID, and I'm just going to return this from the get video by ID method. So let's call this get video by ID from the edit video method. So get video by ID, and let's pass in the video dto.getID as the input parameter. So now we are receiving the video from the get video by ID method. So here IntelliJ is complaining that we can define a local variable with var instead of defining it as video. So let's do that. Use the video by ID method inside the upload thumbnail. So let's call get video by ID, and I'm going to pass in video ID, and the local variable I'm going to call it as saved video, and let's change it as declare it as a var variable. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this file, upload the multi-part file we received from the client to S3. So for that, we have already created the helper method for us called as s3.s3service.upload file. So this is a generic method which will construct a key based on a random UUID and a file name extension. We are calculating the file name extension using the string utils.get file name extension method. So this is pretty generic, no matter if you are using if you are uploading a video file or a thumbnail file or a image file, whatever file you are uploading, this method can handle it because we have created it in a generic way. So let's go to the video service class, and under the upload thumbnail method, I'm going to call s3 service.upload file, and I'm going to pass in the multi-part file which we are receiving as the input argument, the input parameter. So now let's also store this return type inside a new local variable called as thumbnail URL. Right. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to set the thumbnail URL to the saved video. So I'm going to do that by typing saved video dot set thumbnail URL, and I'm going to pass in the thumbnail URL, and finally I'm going to save this video to the database. So I'm going to type in video repository dot save saved video, and that's it. So I'm going to return the thumbnail URL to the back to the controller, and I'm also going to change the return type of the method to string. So back to the upload thumbnail method inside the video controller, I'm going to update the return value as string, right? So whenever the user uploads the thumbnail file along with the video ID, we will upload this file to Amazon S3, and we will create the thumbnail URL and return it back to the client as a response. So now let's restart the application again and test whether the upload thumbnail functionality is also working or not. Alright, so now the server is up and running. Now I'm going to open the Postman client, and I'm going to add a new tab inside Postman client, and I'm going to select the HTTP method as post and the URL as HTTP localhost 8080/API/videos/thumbnail. So this is the request mapping we have selected before, we have created for the upload thumbnail endpoint, right? And as a body, we have to send some form data. The first one is going to be the multi-part file. So for that, first I'm going to select the key type as file instead of text, and I'm going to select the thumbnail file. So first I'm going to name and next I'm going to select the thumbnail. So I'm going to select one random file here, some image file, and I'm going to provide the video ID parameter here. So I'm going to copy the video ID from the previous request we made to the server. So I'm just going to copy the ID from here, from the response, and I'm going to paste it here, and just click on the send button. Looks like we have an error, so it's not HTTP, but just one P here. That's why Postman is not able to send the request. So let's click on the send button again, and now you can see that we have received the URL, the S3 URL of the thumbnail as a response back from the server. Now let's test whether this thumbnail is really uploaded correctly or not. So I'm going to first open an incognito window and open this URL, and you can see that we have uploaded the thumbnail and we have uploaded the image file successfully to S3. Before going ahead and implementing the Angular part, we have to make a small change inside the upload video API implementation. So after uploading the video here, after uploading the thumbnail, we are returning the URL of the thumbnail back to the client as a response, but for the upload video method, we are not returning any response. We are just returning a blank response. Instead of that, we have to provide the video ID and as well as the video URL as a response for the upload video endpoint call. So in this way, the Angular application will understand what is the video URL we just uploaded, and also will understand and will also get to know about the video ID we just created. So for that, I'm just going to create another class inside the DTO called as upload video response, right? And I'm going to add the data annotation, allogs and noargs constructor annotation on top of the class. And this class contains two fields. The first one is video ID, right? And the second one is video URL. So the video URL will be automatically generated whenever we upload the video to Amazon S3, and the video ID will be generated after saving the video to the database. So to map this particular class, map these particular values to this class, we have to open the video service class, and under the upload video method, so we can see that we just saved the database, we just saved the video to the video repository, and the return type and the return value for this save method, we can store it under a variable called as saved video. Again, let's change this type as var. So from this saved video, we can get the video URL as well as the video ID. So from here, we can actually construct the object of upload video response, and I'm going to pass in the video ID. So I'm going to type in saved video.getID as the first parameter, and as the next parameter, I'm going to type in saved video.getVideo URL. So in this way, we can construct the object for the upload video response class, and I'm going to change the return type of the upload video method from void to upload video response. So similarly, I'm going to also change the return type of the upload video inside the video controller class from void to upload video response. So it should be returned. So let's fix this spelling mistake here. So once the video is uploaded, it should return the video ID and as well as the URL as the response. Next step is to enhance the Angular application, the video service file inside the Angular application. Use the response body upload video response. So for that, we need to create an interface inside the Angular application. So under the upload video project, under the upload video folder, I'm going to right click and click on and select new, and I'm going to select the option file, and in here I'm going to type upload video response.ts, and this file is going to be an interface. So I'm going to type in export interface upload video response, and inside this interface I'm going to type in the two fields. The first one is video ID, which is of type string, and the second one is going to be the file URL. So I hope this is file URL. Let's have a look at the DTO. So yeah, this is called video URL. Let's name it as video URL, and this is also going to be a string, right? And after we created this TypeScript file, we have to enhance the return type of the upload video post endpoint with the upload video response class. So I'm going to just add the generic argument upload video response. So to suggest that this post endpoint, this call to the HTTP call to the post endpoint will return the upload video response as the response body. And of course, we also have to enhance the observable here, observable of type upload video response. So this type. And now let's go back to the upload video component.ts, and here we are subscribing to the response, which is just showing a success message inside the console as of now. So what we are going to do is we are going to use the response, and we are going to, so once we receive the success response, we are going to navigate to another component called as save video details component. We did not create this component yet, so we are going to create this component, and as soon as the video is uploaded, we are going to navigate to that component so that the user can type in the metadata of the video and can save those details. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create the component. For that, I'm going to open the terminal and make sure you are inside the YouTube clone UI folder. So I'm going to first cd into the front end and then YouTube clone UI. And now I'm going to type in ng gc save video details, So this will create a component called save video details along with the HTML and the CSS and the TypeScript files. So you should be able to see these 4 files here. So and inside the upload video method, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first retrieve the video ID. So I can do that by typing data.video, and we are going to use this video ID as a URL variable. So our URL will look something like http localhost 4200 save video details / video ID, right? So whatever video ID we have receiving from the response, we will add it to the URL variable. So whenever this save video details component is loaded, we can read this URL parameter video ID, and then we can read this particular video from the backend. So let's go ahead and implement this. So the next step is to create the save video details create a route for the save video details component. For that, I'm going to open the app routing module.ts file, and just under the upload video path, I'm going to create another path. I'm just going to duplicate this line by pressing the key combination Ctrl D, and instead of upload video, I'm going to rename it as save video details, and the component is going to be save video details component. So yeah, I made a mistake here. I cannot just add 2 paths inside one object, so I have to create another object here, and I'm going to set the path and component details here. So as this is a routes array, I cannot just stack these 2 paths inside one object. I have to create another object with different path and component than the one which I have defined before, right? So now this seems to be working. What I'm going to do now is go back to the upload video component, and once we have received the success response, I have to navigate to the save video details component. So for that, I have to first inject the router class into the component. So I'm just going to scroll up until I find the constructor, and here I'm going to inject the router from the Angular router module, right? So just copy this variable called router, and I'm going to type this dot router dot navigate by URL, and I'm going to navigate to the URL save video details, and I'm going to add the video ID here. So it's going to be data.video ID, right? So what it will do is, as soon as we received success response after the upload video, we are going to navigate to the save video details component with this video ID as the URL parameter. Now let's go ahead and test our implementation. I opened the Angular application inside the browser, and opened the URL localhost 4200 upload video, and in here let's upload a video. I'm going to select a sample video here and click on the upload button. So let's wait until we receive the upload confirmation for here, the 201 response, but we still did not navigate to the save video details component. Let's see what is the error. I'm going to open the console, and here you can see that there is an error message that cannot match any routes. URL segment save video details / video ID. So you can see that whatever video ID we received as response, we try to navigate to this save video details component with the video ID as URL parameter, but we made a small mistake when defining the route. So what we did is, I'm going to open the application, I'm going to open the IDE, and inside the app routing modules, so we just mapped the path save video details, but we are also have to append the video ID here. So I'm just going to add this video ID template variable, right? And now we are going to try again. I'm going to select the video again and click on upload video and wait for the video to be uploaded. Okay, so we got the 201 response back, and as you can already see, we have navigated to the save video details component. Let's go also check the console, and yeah, we don't see any error messages. So as soon as we got the success response back from the Spring Boot backend, our Angular application is navigated to the save video details component.